Hey friend, it's me, the Ebony Otaku, the well-rounded nerd. I'm in a little bit different of a place today. This is the Taekwondo school that I attend, and the reason I am filming here is I wanted to talk a little bit about when your nerdiness creeps into your real life. As you can see, our school's a little different. There's a big old cross back there. I have not hidden the fact that I am super Baptist, but my school happens to have a mission team as well, which is part of the reason I love it here. But anyway, getting ahead of myself. So I have been practicing Taekwondo for, this is my 21st or 22nd year. Yeah, I've been practicing for a long time. I'm a senior instructor. I am a black belt. What level, you can figure that out later. But I am a black belt, and I will be teaching class this evening, I believe, unless a higher black belt than me shows up, and then of course they're going to teach. I have an excellent instructor. I go to Shins Martial Arts in Nashville, Tennessee. That's not a secret. It's all over my Facebook and my Instagram. It's not a secret. But I've been here for a very long time and absolutely love it. It's a good family atmosphere. The way that we teach and practice, everyone has the opportunity to learn and to be better. And I love that we do family style classes where kids can take with their parents, siblings together, spouses, whatever combination. Everybody gets to do class together here. But the reason I'm talking about it on my channel is the way I got started in martial arts was letting my nerdiness creep into my real life. I know there's a lot of talk out there about cultural appropriation, a word that I don't like to use, but it applies. Fetishizing a culture versus admiring a culture. And I know that it's getting a lot of talk in the nerd world and reality world because that show 90 Day Fiance, I think it's the Before the 90 Days spinoff. There's a lady on there, and I think she's around my age, and she just has to have an Asian man. She apparently is, just from what they present on the show, I don't know her personally, but the way that they are presenting her scenario on the show, she's more in love with a caricature of what she thinks an Asian person might be, not realizing that there's a lot of countries in Asia and a lot of cultures and a lot of languages, and yeah. And she is going for a person simply because he meets a physical aesthetic that she likes, and is hoping that her fantasy of what comes with anime and pop culture and the rest of that will translate into her real life. And that is not how people work. And it's a little sad to watch, honestly. And it's very cringe. But hey, God bless, whatever you want to do. Live your life. If he understands that's what she's doing and he's willing to do what it takes to secure the bag, whatever. Not my business. But I have to admit that when I was a young teenager, a preteen and young teenager, when you know nothing about the world, I was enamored with Asian culture from, I guess, a pop perspective. Anime was cool. Everyone had different colored hair. Go Sailor Moon. Fighting evil by moonlight, winning love by daylight. Those aren't the real lyrics, by the way. In Japanese. Watching Goku yell for 30 minutes for a whole episode and calling that an episode. Like, I was all about that life. Got into J-pop and K-pop when I was younger. Thought the music was cool. Didn't understand a lick of Japanese or Korean at the time, but was totally into it. But that was just a pop culture perspective. And I think cultures all over the world trade that way. I've traveled all over the world. I've been very fortunate and blessed to travel a lot of places. And I've been able over time to separate my pop culture perspective of a culture versus what they actually are and who they are, and the beautiful threads they add to this tapestry called humanity. And when I got started in Taekwondo, it was for pop culture-y reasons. I was in school and I was going that creative writing English theater kid. I was one of those. I know. Can't believe it, can you? But I was one of those kids who was just all about the arts. And I wrote this story, and it was a good story. I think it was a good story. But it had martial arts and whatnot in it. And I was a little bit of a Hermione Granger. always, I know the answer, and especially when I got like about 7th grade on, I was like a straight A student. Just really cared about my schoolwork. When I was younger, I didn't care. But as I got older, I started caring a lot, especially in high school. Don't know when that switch flipped, but it flipped. But I was used to getting accolades from teachers. I was used to them reading my work and going, "Oh my goodness, you're such a prodigy. Let's enter it in some contest." Blah, 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 blah. Well, I got my notes back on this particular story from a teacher that I put martial arts into, and it was a C. And she offered me a chance to rewrite it because she said it was obvious that I had no experience in martial arts. I was like, I'm a writer. It's fiction. It doesn't matter if I've had experience. At least that's what I thought, that it didn't matter that I didn't have experience. And no joke, I started Taekwondo to prove a point to a teacher that I could go get the experience, write an amazing story, change my grade. But I ended up falling in love with it. This ended up being a much bigger part of my life than I ever realized it would or could be. If you practice a martial art, people always ask, what's the best martial art? The one you practice. Unless it's something real goofy. There's some goofy ones out there. Oh, somebody's trying to call me. Why is somebody always trying to call me when I'm doing something? It's my boyfriend. But am I still recording? Yes, I am. Okay, not going to edit this out. It's just part of the magic. But I ended up falling in love with Taekwondo, with the art, the sport, the physicality of it. I discovered that I was very strong. You may or may not be able to tell from this staging, but I'm not short. I am not a small woman. I am 6'1". I don't know what that is in meters. American. But I am not a small woman. I'm very tall, and I happen to be, a little bit on the muscly side. I'm a muscly girl. I can build muscle like that. And I did very well. Now, like everybody, when I started out, I didn't know how not flexible I was when I started. Like touching the toes was a far off dream. Now I can kick somebody a foot taller than me in the head with no problem. But, stages. When I first started sparring, fighting, and the rest of it, when they saw that I was stronger than most women, I started fighting a lot of guys, like a lot, and beating the tar out of them. It was fun. Like when I was much younger, I don't know, I had pent up rage and anger from somewhere. I don't know where it was coming from, but I would just wipe the floor with people. My first few months in Taekwondo, I was cool, but when I discovered I was strong and I could beat people's tail, I was all about it. I was like, every time we'd have promotion tests, they'd put me out there to fight some strong guy, and I'd feel like I was fighting for my life, but it made me stronger, and I was just so into it, and I was so into being stronger than everyone. But, martial arts isn't just about the physicality. That's a portion of it. You have to do certain things, you have to get your body to a certain point. There's a whole hair in my eye. Yes, watch me rub my eye in these Rona times. To get to that point in martial arts that you can do certain things, not just sparring, but the forms, which when you see people doing patterns that are preset, those are forms, pumse in Korean. Or when you see two people who are really good at sparring, it almost looks like dancing, and they're enjoying it. There should be a smile on their face because fighters show respect for one another in the way that they spar. I have sparring partners that we know we can go all out on each other, but we always hug at the end because we respect each other. When you're coming up in an art, the first thing you focus on is the physical. Your body has to get to a certain point for you to be able to test for black belt, because it's a little black being in a gang and we're going to jump you in. That's just how it is. That's not my opinion. That's just how it is. But once one is broken, they can be built back up. And I'm fortunate to have an instructor who's actually from Korea and is a Korean World Taekwondo Federation Grandmaster. There's not a lot of them out there from his generation. And he's actually very prominent in that world. So I've not just been able to learn the physical part, which of course he's been able to teach me, but the mental and the spiritual part as well. How do these join together? How do I get my body, my mind, and my spirit to work together, not just to be a good martial artist, but to be a good me, to be a good citizen, to do the right thing for myself and others in this world? And when I got older and wiser, even though I can still take it to you if I want to, sparring, that became less important. For me, it became more important to teach a small child their first form and see the smile on their face when they finally got it, or to encourage a young lady who was timid and maybe had been through some things, that you are strong, you have the ability to take care of yourself, or see a family really enjoying having this time together of sparring, of interacting, of loving each other through Taekwondo. That became more important over time. And plus, I was introduced to a lot of Korean culture through Taekwondo. I've been to some Korean tournaments, which that's fun because the whole thing's done in Korean. I don't speak Korean, but super fun anyway. And then also, I was introduced to Korean food, which happens to be top of my list as far as favorite food cultures in the world. I make a lot of Korean food at home. You've seen that if you've looked at other videos on my channel. And I began to, through my instructor and through the experience of Taekwondo and going on mission trips with Taekwondo, have a greater appreciation, not just for the philosophy of the art, but for the culture that the art comes from. Why is this form this way? There's one form named Koryo. And when we do our ready position for it, I'm totally wearing an anime hoodie, call me out. But when we do our ready position for it, you're actually forming a window in your hands through which you're looking at the sun rise over the mountains in Korea. Korea is the kingdom of Koryo before it was what it is today. It's a form made to celebrate Korea, literally. And I started to realize that there is a difference between fandom and people. It's okay to be a fan. I'm a fan. Look at my Sailor Moon hoodie. That's a wicked lady right there. You know, look at my headphones. Homegirl's always got a pair of headphones on. Look at the hair. All right, I'm a whole nerd. If you were to come into my house, you would look around and be like, "Whoo, weeb." But one has to separate our pop culture fun from who people really are and celebrate getting to know people and cultures. You know, one of the things we do with our Taekwondo school, you see that's our mission symbol, the World Christian Taekwondo mission, is we go and work with children and families in very impoverished areas. One place we go a lot because there's a Korean missionary that lives down there is Guatemala and Mexico. Chiapas, Mexico, it's way down there on the border. But there's some local churches and stuff that we work with. And when we're down there, we are fully immersed in local culture. That means not just things like the food. Of course, the food's different, but how people celebrate one another, the schedule kids have for going to school, the way you're transported from one place to another, how family gatherings work, all of that. And then you learn to appreciate people on a whole new level. It's like, wow, this is your life. And you invited me into your life. I got to spend just over a month in the Philippines. My regular job lets me travel, not right now, but not in the panorama. But when we were traveling, I had to go, away and teach for a while. And while I was there, I was like, you know what? I'm in the Philippines. How many more times am I going to get to go to the Philippines? I'm going all in. I went all in on loving and experiencing the culture. Learning words in Tagalog, and I taught them some English phrases they may not have known. Stuff like if you hear someone with my accent say "bless your heart," wasn't a compliment. Stuff like that. And I got along so well with my class. The first class that I taught, at the end, they wanted me to try some local cuisine. I was like, honey, I've been out there street fooding this whole time. But they're like, no, we've got street food you've never had. And they brought me a balut. Me and the woman who was my teaching assistant, they brought me a whole balut. And not just that class, but several other classes came to watch us eat them. If you don't know what a balut is traditionally a duck egg. I think ours were duck eggs because that was a super thick shell. Can be a chicken egg, but it's developed to a certain point and then basically cooked in its own shell. It's like a little contained chicken soup. I wish I had that on video. That would be if I ever go back. But I was like, you know what? I'm here. When in Rome. I'm leaning on a Bob dummy. When in Rome, do the thing. So I just did the thing the way they told me to. Put a little salt on it and cracked it open. And the little thing was staring at me. His little beak. He's like, "Hey, are you gonna do it?" I was like, "Yeah, I gotta eat you." But it turned out to be delicious. I think I ate a part of it I wasn't supposed to because it was super hard and chewy. The other girl ran out of the room throwing up. But I was lord of the trainers that day because I ate the balut happily and it did not cause me any discomfort. But I genuinely enjoyed it. But it was fun to be a part of that culture, to see how people are going to work, how their families are surviving. I learned a lot about how call center culture over there works. There are people whose families are living way out in the provinces, and these call center jobs pay better. So they are literally living away from their families in dorm situations to send that money back home. Blew my mind. We weren't supposed to, but there were days that I didn't know I wasn't supposed to. Let me preface this because I went twice. That's why I ended up being there for over a month. Like I was there, and while I was there, like, "Hey, you want to come back?" And I was like, "Sure." And when I got home, they were like, "We meant go back next week." And I was like, "What? I could have just stayed." So I ended up going back. But anywho, second time I knew this. First time I didn't. But one day I got up and decided I wanted to go exploring, and I did because I'm brave. 6'1" black woman. I mean, if I was going to disappear, it'd be real noticeable. So I'm hard to kidnap. But if you've never been to countries like Brazil, like the Philippines, like Mexico, or if you've never been to portions of your own country where extreme poverty exists alongside prosperity, it's shocking. It's heartbreaking. I mean, I've seen it a lot in Mexico and Guatemala because I've been there. It just seemed more prevalent. That's just the way it was in certain places. But in Manila, one of the most crowded cities on the planet, there's just people everywhere. When you're outside, there's so many buildings and people, it feels like you're still inside. Like that's why people wear masks everywhere. It's just that crowded. When I was walking, I noticed that there's these tall, beautiful apartment buildings and offices and these nightclubs and just all of this trappings of modern prosperity. But then if you paid attention, you'd look under a bridge over a waterway and there's 30 makeshift hovels down there. And people are living there. That just people are laying on cardboard in the street, if they're lucky enough to have cardboard. That child homelessness was rampant. And you know what? I was fortunate that some of the people I was working with, we had some talks. And they told me what their life was like before they got the opportunity to go to school, before they landed a job in one of these Western call centers, before. And I appreciate it because they let me understand the culture better and why things are the way they are. And it made me examine my own culture a little differently because it's not like those things don't exist where I am. It's just that usually in a place like America, the haves are over here and the have-nots are over there. So you never have to see each other. But that's changing with the thing going on. But your nerdiness can come into your real life. Mine has. I'm a huge Taekwondo nerd. I probably have 30 or 40 uniforms and still wear the same one to every single class. I have a ton of uniforms, martial arts shoes, different tournament bags, the gear I've collected over the years. I've probably given away as many martial arts uniforms as I own. I've bought ones that didn't fit just because I thought they looked cool and no other reason. But I have a respect for the Korean culture and other Asian cultures that influence what I do here. martial arts and its origination, I got to learn how martial arts came to be. How it came from China and across the rest of Asia and into Korea and Japan. Why are these arts so different? Why does one emphasize one thing over another? Why do we care more about kicks and then Japanese arts care more about hand techniques? Why is it that way? I never would have known that had I not let my nerdiness jump into my real life. Had I gotten that trip to the Philippines when I was much younger and dumber and looking at things through a pop culture, everyone's an anime character lens, one, I would have offended a bunch of people, but two, I never would have learned about humans on the other side of the planet the way I got to enjoy experiencing people in a different way than I would have, to enjoy experiencing another culture that way. So while nerdiness is fun, I'm all for it. Represent. Nerdiness is fun. But once in a while, we as nerds, otakus, weebs, whatever you want to call us, we need to separate the nerdiness from life and appreciate the cultures and the people that these things we love come from. That they're all unique and beautiful. They are wonderfully and fearfully made. And how amazing is it that we have so many cultures, being an American, that influence who I am? American means everything. We're everything. Anyone can be an American. That's what's so unique about this country. I tried to explain that to some folks. I was like, you realize that in the majority of countries, the ethnicity, the language, the country, those are all the same. If you live in Japan, you're Japanese and you speak Japanese. I cannot become Japanese, but a Japanese person can become American. I know, right? Mind blown. But that's what's great about living here, is I get the opportunity to learn and appreciate. And that's what we should do. We should appreciate one another's cultures. We should be curious. You can see I'm a black woman. I know, shocker, right? But I've had people, gentlemen who wanted to court me, and instead of asking me out to dinner, their first words were, "Have you ever dated a insert ethnicity man here?" It's not about your ethnicity. It's about, are you going to be nice to me? It's about, do you have good taste in food? It's about, do you bathe every day? Are you Christian? That's real important too. They weren't looking at me as a nice young lady that they might want to date. They were looking at me as an object, a pop culture reference of something that they wanted to experience. And humans aren't experiences. We create together an experience called life. I've had a lot of great experiences in this school, a lot, and I look forward to having a lot more. I've had a lot of great experiences loving and enjoying different cultures, and I hope to have a whole lot more. I've been to Europe, I've been to Mexico and South America, I've been to the Canadas, I've been to Japan, I've been to the Philippines, I've been everywhere, man, and I got more places I want to go. Love and respect other cultures. As you travel this nerdy path, just remember there are people behind these things that we love that are being represented. And sometimes we need to take a step back and admire the cultures that have given us so much art and so many things to appreciate. I don't know why I was thinking about all that today, but I am. So this is a different kind of video, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye, friends. Oh, it dropped.